Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another film review, and today we'll be taking a look at The Lost World Jurassic Park. Now, The Lost World Jurassic Park turns 25 years old today, and, well, to be honest, The Lost World Jurassic Park is honestly my favorite sequel in the franchise. In fact, I will go as far as to say, even though I've spent a lot of money on this franchise, whether it be figures or whatever, the only two movies that I think are genuinely great are the first two. Like Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World, and Fallen Kingdom. I know people hate those movies, and I definitely see where they're coming from, but I don't hate them. I don't love them. I think they're popcorn movies. They're just kind of whatever. And I'll also say this: I am not excited for Jurassic World Dominion whatsoever. But yeah, The Lost World is the only sequel in the franchise that I consider to be like a genuine, great follow up to the first movie. So yeah, it has its flaws, but well, that's why I'm making this video. Seeing as how The Lost World turns 25 years old today, I figured, you know what? Why not review it and just kind of give my thoughts on it? So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else to say, so let's just get right into this. To start this review, we'll take a look at the characters. So, to start, we'll take a look at Ian Malcolm, who I actually really like in this movie. He's one of my favorite characters here. In the first movie, he was a lot more cocky and he had this rock star sort of attitude. He was constantly hitting on Ellie and just having all these one-liners throughout. Towards the end of the movie, he says to John, "Well, yeah, but John, the pirates don't break out of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and eat all the tourists." Not those words exactly, but you get my point. But he was definitely more cocky in the first movie. Here, he's a lot more grown up and he's a lot more mature. He does have some one-liners, but for the most part, he is very mature. For the most part, and I like that, and I think that makes sense because when you're on an island, you almost get killed by a T-Rex, and people are just dying left and right. After an experience like that, you're not gonna be like your usual self. That's gonna haunt you for probably the rest of your life, and you're just gonna constantly think to yourself "Holy shit! I actually witnessed people die. I have seen horrific things." You're not gonna be yourself. You're gonna be a changed man after an experience like that. So I think it makes a lot of sense that Ian is a lot more mature in this movie. Again, he does have some, one-liners in this movie, but for the most part, he feels a lot more mature than he does in the first movie. So I do like that a lot. So Ian Malcolm, I think he's really cool in this movie. Then we have Sarah Harding, and I know a lot of people don't like Sarah, and I can kind of see why, but for the most part, I actually like Sarah a lot. I think she's an alright character. There are some moments I don't like. At the beginning of the movie, she starts petting a baby Stegosaurus, and then the parents come and try to kill her. And then in the next scene, the very next scene, she says to Ian, "We can't disrupt. We have to observe only." And it's like, you were just touching the thing's infant. Come on now, what are you doing? But yeah, some moments like that. And there are some moments in this movie that I don't like, and we'll talk about those later. But overall, I like Sarah as a character. I think she's alright. Oh, definitely not my favorite character in the franchise, but still, I like her. Now we have Nick Van Owen, who I don't really like that much. In the movie, he's this extremist, not conservation, but animal rights activist character. And I feel like a character like that would kind of work in a story like this, but the thing is, he does a lot of stupid things, which I guess fits his character, but it's still just kind of wow, there's a scene where he literally finds the baby T-Rex with a broken leg and takes it back to the trailer, and even Sarah is like, "Nick, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? What do you know what that is?" And he just didn't care. He just brought it back to the RV with Sarah. And, well, to be fair, Sarah didn't do anything to stop it, but yeah, Nick just does a lot of stuff like that. And even, towards the middle of the movie, a little bit after that, when the T-Rex is attacking the camp, Roland is about to shoot one of the T-Rexes, but he has no bullets in his gun. And that's because Nick Van Owen took them. And again, I get that he's this animal rights activist, but at the same time, it's you are kind of killing people. Half of the situations you're getting these people into, it's kind of your fault. So, yeah, Nick Van Owen, he's not my... I don't hate Nick Van Owen, but at the same time, I don't like him either. He's also played by Vince Vaughn, which is kind of funny to me. My sister's friend absolutely loves Vince Vaughn. So when I told him that he was in this movie, he was just kind of like, dude, I have to see this movie now. So, yeah, that's one thing that's funny. Then we have Eddie Carr, who, he's alright. Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to say about Eddie Carr. He's just kind of the doughy, like, mechanic of the movie, because he, like, he works at, like, a mechanic shop, or, yeah. But, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say. Eddie Carr, he's alright. I don't like him, but I don't dislike him either. He's alright. He's kind of in the middle for me. Then we have Kelly, who, I know there are a lot of people who do not like Kelly. I don't mind her. I mean, yeah, she got annoying at times, but she wasn't, like, horrible in this movie. I think she's an alright character. Though, like I said, I completely understand why people would hate her character, because, yeah, she can be annoying at times. But, yeah, Kelly, she's alright. Then we have Roland Tembo, who is probably my favorite character in this movie. Roland Tembo is awesome. And if I'm being honest, I think he's cooler than Robert Muldoon. Robert Muldoon is a great character, don't get me wrong. I love Robert Muldoon, but Roland Tembo is low-key kind of cooler. Because in the first movie, Muldoon, he's experienced raptors before. He knows what they're capable of, and he knows, pretty much like what they can do. So he kind of knows these animals, and he hates these animals. So when he's out hunting the raptors, he gets killed by one. He was not anticipating the attack from the side, like they talked about earlier on in that movie. Here, you have Roland Tembo, who just shows up to the island, he gets his tranq darts, and he just goes ahead, knows nothing about dinosaurs, knows nothing about T-Rex, knows nothing about their behavior, just casually goes up to the big male and just tranqs it like that. I'm sorry, but Roland Tembo is low-key a cooler character. Again, I like Robert Muldoon a lot. I love Robert, but Roland Tembo's low-key cooler. So, yeah. Then we have Dieter Stark, who he's just kind of there. I don't love him, but I don't dislike him. He's just that asshole character in the movie. He shocks at Compy, and he like gets in a fight with Nick Van Owen at one point, but that's all he kind of has to him. He doesn't really have a whole lot of character to him, which I think is fine. Dieter Stark, actually, it's funny. I remember my dad and I were watching The Lost World once, and we got to the scene where he shocked the Compy. And the first thing my dad says, like, what a fucking asshole. Like, just kind of laugh. I love my dad. He's funny. I love my dad. But, yeah, it just came out of nowhere, and it was just funny. But, yeah, that's Dieter Stark. And the last character I want to talk about is Peter Ludlow, who I like. He's not my favorite character in this movie, but I do like him to an extent. There's not a whole lot with him, but he's just kind of like a generic businessman who is kind of like John Hammond, but he kind of lacks the that like charm of like that charm that Richard Attenborough had. So he's just kind of like, there are animals. We're gonna take them off this island, and we're gonna make a theme park with them, whether you like it or not. Sorry. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I like Peter Ludlow, but at the same time, I don't like him, but I don't dislike him. He's just kind of, he's all right. He's whatever. I like him, so I don't know, but yeah, and that's pretty much it for the characters. There are definitely some characters that I don't care for, but there are also some characters that I really like. So overall, the characters in this movie, they're not bad. They're not as great like the first movie, but overall, I think the characters here are pretty good. So yeah. Now I want to talk about the writing of the movie. For the most part, I think the movie has pretty solid writing. There are some moments that I really don't like. There's the scene where, like, Ian, Nick Van Owen, and Sarah, they're, like, hiding, or not hiding, but they're, like, in the RV as it's about to, like, fall off the cliff. And then Eddie Carr comes in the RV, and he's like, well, what do you guys need? What do you guys need help with? And then the characters just respond with, like, I'll take an apple turnover, I'll have a cheeseburger, I'll have a Whopper, and it's like, stuff like that does kind of take me out of the movie. Like I said earlier, Sarah, she starts touching a baby stegosaurus. The parents get angry, and the next scene, she's just kind of like, we can't touch these animals. We can't interact in any way, shape, or form. We have to just observe. And it's still just kind of like, you contradicting yourself much, but yeah, and then there's another really jarring moment, like towards the beginning of the movie, where all of the characters are just talking over each other and just a big mess. Like, it really does take you out of it. So yeah, like it's I don't get the direction with that scene, but other than that, though, I think the writing is pretty solid. It brings up some pretty interesting concepts. It brings up how animals like they don't hunt when they're not hungry, and just like a lot of stuff like that, and just like the moral like just it's sort of like an environmentalist movie where like humans shouldn't like get in the way of nature and nature should just be left alone. Like that's kind of the moral of the movie. And I like that. You know, I do like that. Like there are some moments where I think it's kind of like, it's kind of a little weird, but I do like that moral. But we'll talk more about positives later. But yeah, overall the writing of this movie not perfect, not superb, but overall I still think it's pretty solid. So the writing, it's good. I think so anyway. Now I want to talk about this movie's soundtrack, and oh my god, this movie has a phenomenal soundtrack. Now, John Williams is back from the first movie to compose the soundtrack here, and might I say, this movie's soundtrack is fantastic. I absolutely love it to death. So good. Some of my favorite tracks, of course, the main theme. It's very like, the soundtrack itself is very like jungle inspired, so the main theme has that jungle vibe to it. Um, Another sound piece of soundtrack that I like, The Hunt, I think it's called. The scene where like the Indian hunters are driving through the game trail to like get the parasaurs and pachycephalosaurs and all that stuff. I think that's a great track. Visitor in San Diego again is a really good track, and overall this movie's soundtrack is phenomenal, fantastic, love it to death. Now I want to talk about some overall positives I have with this movie and some things that I genuinely really like. First of all, there's a lot of T-Rex action in this movie. Now, when it comes to the Jurassic Park franchise, I am the biggest T-Rex fanboy ever. I love the T-Rex. I have no shame in saying that. The T-Rex is awesome. I love it to death, you know. So, one thing I really like about this movie is that there is a lot of T-Rex action. And another thing that's really cool is that, like, like with the Jurassic Park movies that come out, like Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World, and even Dominion coming up, they always have to have, like, a theropod dinosaur that's bigger and scarier than the T Rex to, make it a little more scary, which I get, but the thing I like here is, like, okay, so in the first movie, the T Rex was really scary and was, like, a big threat, so what are we going to do to up that? Well, let's have two T Rexes, and I think that is so cool. Just like it's not a dinosaur that's bigger and scarier like the Spinosaurus or the new Giganotosaurus coming to Dominion. Instead, they just have two T Rexes, and it's just great. Like I said, I am a huge T Rex fanboy, so the fact that this movie has a lot of T Rex action is really cool to me. So, yeah. And then, of course, the male T Rex gets let loose in San Diego, and I think that scene is great. Very similar to people compared to Godzilla, and there is a Godzilla reference there, but to me, it feels more like King Kong because it's more so an animal being like ripped from its like natural world to this new like you know alien like world. And it's just like confused. It's seeing like all these cars and stuff, all these lights, and it's just like causing going on a rampage essentially. It doesn't know where it is. So yeah, I think that's great. And it's not a whole movie. It's like 15 minutes. So it's not like Dominion where it's going to be a whole movie with like dinosaurs running around in a city. And it's just like I'm not excited for Dominion. I'm sorry. I'm really not, but we'll talk about that movie when it comes out, but as of now, I am not excited for that movie at all. But yeah, no, the T Rex in San Diego scene was great. Loved it to death. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah. Another thing I really like about this movie is the Redwood setting. Now, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I don't really see how, you know, an island in Central America is able to grow like redwood forest. I think that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. However, I do think that the redwood setting, I think it looks really nice. it makes the movie look a lot more different compared to the first. So you can tell like the first movie took place in a jungle, this movie took place in a forest. Like I said, even if it doesn't make sense, it is still very aesthetically pleasing, and I like that a lot. The tiger raptors. Now the raptors are back in this movie, but also they have a new like color variant, and it's like they're based off tigers, and I think that looks really nice. And like they have that raptor color scheme, but at the same time, they still have like the same model as like the first movie. And I think the raptors in the first movie have genuinely some of the best designed creatures of all. Like, even though they're inaccurate, they are really beautiful. Like considering like at a movie standpoint, they are like genuinely like beautifully designed animals, and I like that a lot. So the tiger raptors are great. We have herbivore aggression. Now, one thing I don't really like about, Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World to an extent, and even Fallen Kingdom's weird. We don't get a lot of herbivore aggression. Now, The Lost World, we get a decent amount of that because we have the stegosaurs attacking, Sarah Harding when they mess with her infant, and then we have the scene where like all the herbivores get loose and they start trashing like the camp. You have the Triceratops, like bursting through the tent, and then you have the Parasaur like causing some damage, and then the Pachycephalosaurus is like ramming into guys, and it's just really cool. So it's nice to see the herbivores not used as props and more so just like an actual like thing that like the characters have to avoid. I like that. I wish more like dinosaur movies had like aggressive herbivores, but that's just me. Now, one of the big reasons why I think the first two movies are such great movies is the fact that the dinosaurs like actually behave like animals, and I think that is so cool. Like Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World, and Fallen Kingdom, like they don't like act like animals, like at all. Like to an extent they kind of do, but at the same time it's just kind of like no. Like in Fallen Kingdom, Blue is able to smell the gas and realize what that is. That doesn't make any sense. The Stygimoloch is just a comic relief dinosaur who just headbutts everything and just gets kind of dizzy. And, like Bryce Dallas Howard said, we all love the Stygimoloch. You know, but it's really nice because in the first two movies, they had, like, actual animal experts, like, sort of, like, have a hand in, like, animating the dinosaurs or just, like, how they would act. And it's really nice because, like, even, in the scene where like the two T Rexes attack the camp, like they don't go to attack the camp because they just feel like it. They go to attack the camp because like they smell the blood of their infant on Sarah's jacket, which to be fair, she should have like dropped that a long time ago. But the smell of the baby's blood kind of caused them to like go to the camp and like just mess everything up. And then also, people say like, oh, it doesn't make sense how even though the T Rexes pushed the trailer over the cliff, they still came back to attack Eddie Carr. And it actually does make sense because they say this in the movie, like, because of what happened with, like, the trailer, their territory expanded, so they have to, like, defend that whole area. So they thought they took care of the problem, which was the trailer, but then when they heard the engine of Eddie Carr's, car, they heard that and thought, wait, no, the threat is back, we have to take care of it. So there's, like, actual, like, animal behaviors here, and I think that's really cool. So again, the reason why I think the first two movies are such great, one of the reasons anyway, is because like the dinosaurs actually behave like animals. They're not movie monsters. Like the reason why I love the T-Rex so much is because like yeah, it's this big animal that causes a lot of destruction, but that's just it. It's an animal and it feels like an actual animal, and it's really nice to see. It's not like trying to be big and scary like the Indominus Rex or the Spinosaurus. It's just an animal. And I really like that. So yeah, some actual animal behavior is great, and I like it a lot. Another thing I really like, which I probably should have talked about earlier, the antagonists of the movie aren't terrible people. Like, yeah, they're there to, like, take the dinosaurs off the island, just sort of, like, have them as, like, theme park attractions on the mainland. But, like, there are points in the movie where, like, they're actually, like, genuine human beings. It's not like Fallen Kingdom where you have, like, kind of cartoonish villains like we will sell these dinosaurs for millions of dollars and make a huge profit. But like you have a scene where like Roland Tembo he sees blood on Sarah Harding's jacket and he goes to check on her like, hey, are you okay? Like they're not horrible people. Like they're there to do like things that aren't really like they're not good, but at the same time like they're not like people. They're not like going out of their way to kill people like Nick Van Owen. They're like actually going out of their way to like help these people. Well, they're kind of helping each other, but you get my point. They're like genuinely like not bad people. So yeah, I like that a lot. It's another thing I really like about this movie. It kind of adding to the whole animal behavior thing. It's really nice to see these like animals in a natural environment. Like it's cool to see the dinosaurs break out of Jurassic Park and just kind of like destroy the island. Like that's cool and all, but it's also really nice to see the dinosaurs in their natural habitat. They're just like in the wild, and it's just really nice to see. It's also kind of scary because like in the first movie it was like the dinosaurs are breaking out, like what are we gonna do? Here it's like the humans, there aren't a lot of people, and like they're going into their territory, like they're going into the dinosaurs world. It's not the dinosaurs like in our like environment, it's us going into the dinosaurs environment. And I think that leads to, I think that can be pretty scary. So yeah, I do really like that. It's a lot more action heavy. Now, one thing I will say, I do like the more like grounded tone of the first movie. I like it a lot, but at the same time, I like action. So the fact that this movie is more action heavy, I think, is great. It also makes sense because like this movie. Actually, no, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's a lot more action heavy. There are some scenes that don't make sense. There's a scene where a dinosaur somehow launches a car into the air and crashes it into the top of a tree. And there's a moment where yeah, where the car is like able to pull and like actually hold on to the trailers from falling over the cliff, which doesn't make sense like in the grand scheme of things, but overall it's like stuff like that. And there are some goofy moments that we'll talk about later, but for the most part this movie is more action heavy, and yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Another thing I really like about this movie, it has a much more darker tone. There are a lot more like nighttime scenes and a lot like darker scenes like that that I think look really nice, but also it makes sense because like in the first movie, like there was that sense of like wonder that like dinosaurs are back and like they're here. Like the scene with the sick Triceratops, the opening scene with the Brachiosaurus, and even the scene where the Brachiosaurus is like eating the leaves off the trees with Grant, Tim, and Lex. But here, like, there's a little bit of wonder, but for the most part, it's mostly just kind of like, okay, so we know that dinosaurs are here. We know that, but at the same time, like, we're kind of used to this now. So there's less wonder here, but it's still like, there's still a little bit of wonder, but it's mostly like, yeah, like, we know dinosaurs are here, and like, yeah, they're here, and they're pretty dangerous. So, like, the tone of the movie is a lot darker than the first movie, and I like that a lot as well. Um, yeah, like I said earlier, there are great action pieces that even if some of them don't make sense, there are a lot of like great action moments I was talking about earlier. Um, the special effects in this movie are actually a lot better than the first movie. We have like there are two like actual like fully like sized like T-Rex animatronics, which is awesome. They're like for the copies they have like entire like puppeteers like to make them look real. And the CGI has gotten better, of course. Like years have gone by since like the first movie came out. Of course, the CGI is going to be better. And overall, the movie just has just like really improved special effects. This is a minor thing I really like, but there's a Jurassic Park 1 reference, and well, there are a few, but this one in particular I don't really hear people talk about. So, in the first movie, when the raptor kills Muldoon, it's like chewing on his like head, there's like a bush that's covering it. So, like, you know what's going on, but you can't really like fully see it. There's a scene in The Lost World where the T Rex breaks out, like, it's in San Diego. And there's a scene where the T Rex picks up a guy, which, by the way, is David Koepp, who's the screenwriter for the first two Jurassic Park movies. But yeah, where the T Rex picks up the guy and takes him like behind a car and just starts to eat him, and it feels very similar to that scene from the first movie. So I do like that a lot. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, but yeah, no, it's really cool. There are a lot of really nice shots in this movie. So I'm like, I really like the shot where like Sarah, like the RV's over the cliff, but like she's like Sarah Harding, she's like on the glass, and she's just kind of like floating there. I think that is an awesome shot. And also like the shot of like all the Ancient Hunters, like they're running through like the tall grass, and all of, like the raptors are just like you don't see the raptors, but like you just see like the grass like moving towards the group of like Ancient Hunters. I think that looked really cool, and just a lot of like really like nice shots in this movie. And this is a really minor thing that I like about this movie, but like an InGen hunter that's in this movie. He's not credited, but he actually appears in Jurassic World, and I thought that was a nice little touch for Jurassic World. Like, even though Jurassic World, like, like I don't love that movie. I think it's an okay movie. I will say this, like, it doesn't feel as soulless as Star Wars. Like, it does like show respect to like the sequels. It's not just, oh, remember Jurassic Park. There's some like little stuff like that, like having like the InGen hunter from the Lost World show up. I think that's pretty cool. But yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the positives I have. Now we'll talk about the negatives. Now, even though throughout this review I said that, in my opinion, The Lost World is the best of the Jurassic Park sequels, and not only that, but I also say that this movie and the first Jurassic Park are the only, like, great movies in the franchise. The rest are fine. As much as I love The Lost World, and I still think that it's a great movie, I'm not saying it's perfect, because it definitely has some flaws. There are a lot of goofy moments that I think are too goofy. One of the biggest examples being the gymnastics scene where Kelly's doing like gymnastics on like the poles, and then she like kicks her raptor onto like a thing of spikes, which I think that was pretty stupid. That was kind of a bad scene, I'm not gonna lie. And just like stuff like that. Well, to be fair, I think that's the worst scene in the movie, but that's just me. Another thing like that I find a little disappointing is that like I love the movie, but I wish it was more like it was better adapted to the book, particularly like with the Carnotaurs. Because in case you don't know, in the Lost World novel, there was like a pair of like chameleon like Carnotaurs that like blended in like perfectly to their surroundings. And there's a great scene where they're hunting I think Dr. Thorne. I forget his first name, but like Dr. Thorne, he's in like the garage to get like gas for their car, like in the book, and he doesn't see them. He can't see them, but like he knows they're there because like he can like hear their breathing. And then the characters discover them like because like they turn on the lights and then they like shut them off for a brief second, and like between like those brief seconds, like you can see the silhouette of the animal before it quickly like blends in, like getting out of the light. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining it, but yeah, the scene itself you can find out like listen to on YouTube. It's really cool, but yeah, I really wish the color changing Carnotaurs like appeared in this movie. That would have been incredible. That's one of my favorite moments like in the franchise, whether it be the movies or the books. I love that scene to death, and it's a shame that didn't appear in the movie. Like, it was in the marketing. There's the Lost World Bonebreaker toy. There was the little finger puppet that came out. It was in the PS1 game, and even the PS1 game, or no, it was in the PS1 game, but it was also in the arcade game. So, in the marketing, there was definitely some Carnotaur scene, but it didn't show up in the final movie, and it's honestly kind of a shame. But, yeah, it would have been nice to see the Carnotaurs, but, you know, it's, well, I was gonna say it's whatever. It's not whatever. I cry at night knowing that movie didn't, or that scene didn't make it into the final movie. Ouch. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, there's a scene in the beginning where the characters are talking over each other. That kind of sucked. Again, this is another thing I found stupid. Sarah Harding just kind of left the blood of the baby Tyrannosaur on her jacket. She probably should have just ditched that, but she didn't, and that was a little stupid, and that's what kind of caused the parents to attack the camp. But, yeah. Um, there's too much, like, from the... They recorded a lot of, like, scenes for this movie, but I feel like too much was cut out. There was a scene where they showed like how the T-Rex, like how the baby T-Rex broke its leg. There was a really cool scene where Roland Tembo was meeting Ajay for the first time. I think that was great. Um, One of the complaints I hear about the San Diego scene is that like we see like a severed hand stuck to like the steering wheel of the boat, and it's supposed to be implied that the T-Rex like came in there and like killed the guy, but there's no damage to indicate that. Well, there's concept art that shows like a giant hole where the T-Rex's head would have like crashed through, but they didn't show it in the movie, which is kind of a shame. And also Ajay's death, they didn't show that, which yeah, they didn't really show that. Like they filmed it, or I don't know if they filmed it, but they like planned it, but it wasn't in the final movie, and it's kind of a shame because it was actually a really cool scene. or not cool, but it was like actually a really like good scene. And just overall, just a lot, just too much stuff cut out from the final movie. One last negative I have with this movie is that there should have been like more character interactions. Like in the beginning, Ian says to Kelly, like, you know, hey, listen, I'm not the one who split for Paris and left you all alone, so don't take it out on me. Implying that, Kelly's mother just left for Paris, More interactions like that would have been really nice, just like Kelly talking with like Ian, like stuff like that would have been really nice. And also more interactions between Roland Tembo and Ajay. Like that would have been great to see cuz like Ajay is his business partner, not business partner, but like his partner with like hunting and stuff. So it's just really cool to see like, it would have been really cool to see them like interact more. So like when Ajay dies, like in the movie he dies off screen, and then you just see Roland Tembo, he's sitting there, he's devastated, and he just says like Ajay, he didn't make it. And that's supposed to be a really sad scene, but like first of all, we didn't see him actually die like on screen. Second of all, we didn't like there haven't been like enough character interactions between the two for us to get like emotionally invested. So it's just kind of like more character interactions would have been great. I would have preferred this over like having it like a lot more action heavy, but still, I digress. The action in this movie is still cool, but more character interactions would have been nicer. But yeah. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the Lost World Jurassic Park. So in conclusion, what do I think? I think this movie is a flawed gem. It's not Spielberg's best movie. It's definitely flawed, and there are some arguments I've heard against this movie that I see where they're coming from, but then I hear some arguments that are honestly kind of stupid. Like the nostalgia critic. Nothing against Doug Walker himself. I respect the hell out of that guy as a person, but his review of The Lost World, he got a lot, like, he got a lot of information wrong. And I'm just like, oh, God. Like, they even explained it in the movie. Like, he critiqued, like, oh, why did the T-Rexes come back to attack the camp? But they literally explained that in the movie because they expanded their territory. They said that in the movie. I do hear some like dumb arguments like that, and yeah, there are some things. Like I said, it's not Spielberg's best movie, but overall, I still think that it is a very enjoyable movie. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the best sequel in the Jurassic Park franchise. Feel free to disagree with me. I don't care. I don't want to I don't want people to think like, oh, my opinion is fact and you're all wrong if you disagree with me. Like what you like. If you think Jurassic World is the best sequel, then good on you. If you like Jurassic Park 3 more, and I know there are a lot of people who like Jurassic Park 3 more, that's fine. Love you to death for it, but as far as like me personally, I think The Lost World is the best sequel, but that's just me. So, yeah, The Lost World, flawed, but still a very enjoyable movie. So, I'd say this movie is an 8 out of 10. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Happy 25th anniversary to The Lost World Jurassic Park. Peace. Zack out.